KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Earlier this year, a new law took effect that opens the door to a different kind of treatment option for Coloradans who struggle with anxiety or depression. Psilocybin, which is a psychoactive compound in psychedelic mushrooms, can now be offered by licensed treatment centers. State officials had projected April as the date centers could begin offering their licensed services. We wanted to understand what this kind of therapy entails. So in January, we reached out to a center that had applied for a license and had offered psychedelic treatments in the past. The Wholeness Center in Fort Collins offers an array of treatments for mental health. Dr. Scott Shannon is the founder of the center, which has treated thousands of patients with psychedelic therapy following the old laws that existed until this year.
People come to see me because they're stuck. And these medications help people to get unstuck.
Today, we're listening back to my conversation with Scott. I asked him to describe a typical psychedelic therapy session. Before anyone takes psilocybin, it starts with a basic conversation between patient and therapist.
What happens is, in ways very similar to regular therapy, you're trying to develop a bond. For the psychedelic session, one of the most important things is develop trust.
Where does the psilocybin come from? I mean, do patients need to bring their own mushrooms? How does that work?
In the regulated model, patients will not need to bring anything because we will be purchasing state-approved, tested, regulated mushrooms that we have available to us and we can store on site. That's part of the process that the state is regulating in this new model. You come in and really what you're purchasing is therapy that includes psilocybin-containing mushrooms.
Now, after I've had my initial sessions, I schedule the day of treatment, which is an all-day event because the actual session could be anywhere from 4 to 7 hours. Describe what happens during that session after the patient takes the psilocybin. What do you talk about? What is the experience like?
Well, let's say the patient comes in at 10 o'clock. So the first thing you do is check in with the patient. How's your day? How you doing? And maybe after 30 minutes, you deliver the agreed upon dose. And once the patient ingests the mushrooms, then it's likely 20 to 40 minutes while this is absorbed. And during that period, it'll be a sense of everything getting more intense and vibrant. Colors will seem amplified. During that time, the clinician will encourage the patient to, quote, go inside. And that means put on some eye shades, perhaps put on headphones, which have a curated playlist. Because if you have a psychedelic experience with your eyes open, without music, you may become focused on the spider in the corner or something beautiful like a flower or just intrigued by whatever. But if the experience moves inside, it's more likely to be valuable about working on your issues, your traumas, your concerns. It just makes it a more therapeutic process.
I mean, this sounds calming, but potentially intense. Is this a difficult experience for patients?
It can be challenging. One of the things we tell people is with psilocybin, you don't get the trip you want, you get the trip you need.
All right. So if there's, something happens, they have a little anxiety. It's like, okay, this is what was meant to be.
Yeah, exactly. I think one of the things that psilocybin does is it brings up the things that we've been hiding from, denying, protecting, rationalizing. For example, if you've been drinking too much and you come in and have a psilocybin experience, you're going to be confronted with this in a very frank and honest and bold way. I tell people it can be harsh, but it's honest and never cruel. You come through with these powerful insights that lead to behavior change. And I think all too often when people are stuck, we get into this rut where we've rationalized, avoided, denied. And psilocybin just brings it all up and helps you to see it with some great clarity.
I want to ask about the last part of the treatment. It's a follow-up session on the day after, which is mandatory. What happens here, and why is this session so important?
Yeah, we call it integration. And that is critical because you get these insights, you get these new perspectives with psilocybin. And then what do you do with it? So I think the integration is about how you bring this into your life. You've had this insight that your job is not good for you, then what's next? If we don't do integration, you may slip back into the rationalization that it's kind of easier if I just keep on keeping on. With integration, we help bring it into the person's life so they change their life.
Scott, is there anyone who should not undergo this type of treatment?
Well, if you've had a horrific trauma history, you've been abused, you have severe PTSD, I think then it's useful to go through some conventional therapy to build up skills. Psychedelics require a willingness and an ability to turn inward and to deal with some difficult stuff.
How do you think the legalization of psilocybin and healing centers in Colorado could change what mental health care looks like here?
Erin, as you know, we're caught in a mental health crisis of epic proportions. It's more than a crisis. We're in an epidemic where a third to 40% sometimes people are experiencing depression, anxiety, trauma, and our current tools are inadequate. We have as many as 40%, sometimes more people are treatment resistant in terms of our current tools with antidepressants. That means we may be able to help half of people, maybe. So we need other tools. And I think so often our current tools are suppressive. They just sort of manage and keep things sort of a little bit at bay, but people are still very immersed in their misery. With psychedelics, we have this ability for a transformative tool that really evokes the internal world and brings it up and honors and values people's ability to heal, because I think that has been lost for much of modern psychiatry.
Dr. Scott Shannon is the founder of the Wholeness Center in Fort Collins. Scott said they have applied for their license and expect to be ready to serve patients as soon as the state goes live with the new regulations early this summer. The KUNC newsroom will be covering licensed psychedelic therapy centers as they roll out over the next few months. You can follow that work at kunc.org. And if you're not already, make sure you're following the In The NoCo podcast. It's a great way to support the show and make sure that you don't miss an episode. Follow for free wherever you get podcasts. That's it today for In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Thank you so much for listening.